My goodness, season three of Godfather of Harlem stays busy and very exciting. What does this new season bring for your character, Ilfenesh?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, when we meet Mamie season one, she's been a single mother, really. Well, Bumpy's been away at Alcatraz for 12 years. And her mission is really to, bring her family back together. They're all relearning one another and getting to know one another again. Margaret was just a baby when Bumpy went away. Season two, we see them, there's obviously conflict, but they've got this groove going. Her problems with Elise are starting to kind of simmer down. They don't have a perfect parenting partnership, but it's all a work in progress. And by season three, a small spoiler, not a huge thing. I think it's not a surprise to anyone, but Margaret is sent down south for safety reasons, right? And it is the first time, really, in 12, 13 years that Mamie is not a mom with a kid that she's rearing under her roof, right? I think it gives her for the first time the freedom to really think about who she is outside of mother and wife. And we see that kind of happening season one and season two in small ways. We see her dreaming a little bit or allowing herself to dream. But by season three, without this kid under her roof, right? She can really, like, dive head first into her work at HARU and into her work with Adam Clayton Powell. And it's really exciting for her, but also creates a lot of conflict. When you find yourself in a new role, it creates these growing pains for everybody involved, and we see a lot of that this season.
Antoinette, where do we pick up with Elise?
Yeah, I think when we leave Elise at the end of season two, you see that she sort of follows Malcolm out of the Nation of Islam and is looking for a new purpose. And I think it's really important because she doesn't want to slip back into old habits and into heroin addiction and anything that is might cause harm to the new family that she's found herself in and wants to foster and care so much about. So we see her sort of finding her agency in working with Malcolm and working very hard to support him in his goal of bringing peace to Black people in America, and in his travels looking for different ways that he can bring different methods of working with the people in the community to make a better life for the people in America. So I think you see Elise really starting to figure out what she wants to do with her life and the agency that she needs to have to make that happen.
Well, I'll finish with a kid-free environment that leaves you open to meet new people. Who were you excited to share some scenes with this season?
I mean, Michael Raymond-James is an absolute gem of a human and actor. We had one scene together this season, and I haven't seen any of the episodes this season yet, but I have a feeling that our scene together is one of the highlights of my season as Mamie. He's just an incredibly thoughtful actor. Gave me a little tip while we were shooting that I think saved the scene. I'm sipping a stiff drink, and the first take, he pours me this drink, and I take a swig, no reaction, and he's like, "Wow, Mamie's really used to knocking him back, right?" And I'm like, "Wow, silly actor." She's drinking, yes, this is ginger ale, right? But this is really whiskey. So why don't we actually pretend that there's whiskey in this cup? What would you do? Thank you, Michael Raymond-James, for saving that scene single-handedly. I would have lost all credibility. But no, it was wonderful to work with him. And then always, Giancarlo is a dream to work with. And we really, like, we found our, we found our groove for sure. It's a joy working with him. But Antoinette, my old gal, she and we've made 3 seasons of magic together now, and she's always it just never gets old.
Antoinette, Ilfinish talked about some incredible moments from filming season three. What were some of your favorite episodes, if you can tease that fans should look out for? Sometimes it's hard to remember numbers when you've had a whole season's worth of work, though.
Also, how do I not get in trouble? Okay.
Yeah.
That's hard. It's hard because okay, so the pilot episode, first of all, the pilot episode, because the end of season two, you remember all the Doogie goes up in flames, right? So there's like a whole thing that happens in the pilot of figuring out what we're gonna do next. And the end of that first episode, excellent. So I'm very excited to see the pilot. And then I don't know, personally, for at least there's like episode 8, there's some drama that goes down. I don't want to get in trouble. Don't get me in trouble. But there's some really great things that go down toward the end of the season. Um, you have to understand the way they write this show. It is so fascinating because every single time I get a new episode, they send us a script. I'm like, okay, what's about to happen? And it's like really dangerous. And most of the scenes that I'm in, I'm with like Ilfenesh and I'm with um Jason Allen Carvel, who's playing Malcolm X, and we're like talking and we're philosophizing and we're talking about the politics and we're talking about sort of family life. So when I go back and I read the episode, I'm like, oh my goodness, whose head got chopped off? Oh my goodness, what's happening? What is happening? So there is, I think for almost every episode, there's sort of a major twist that happens, and so it's going to be a really really fun season.
I was just about to say, Antoinette, every season, as I mentioned earlier, gets better and better, and there's more drama and it's more intense. And Forrest stays bringing the action. Both of you talk about getting the opportunity to work with such an iconic actor, please.
It's really fantastic. I think at the beginning of uh I remember watching in season 1, I would watch, and Forrest is like the sweetest human you'll ever meet, like so demure and kind and sweet and gentle. And I would be watching him at the beginning of the season, and he would like, I would be talking to him, we'd be having a conversation, he'd be so friendly, so nice. And then he would get up and he would somehow switch into the most terrifying human in the world. It's truly the most fascinating thing to watch. And I think it is so impressive. And I am constantly sort of trying to figure out how he does that so I can copy it because it's so beautiful to watch someone truly understand how to transform themselves in that way and watching the way that it happens inside of their body and really maneuvering it. And it's just such an immense talent that I am just in awe of all the time. As with pretty much every actor I get to work with on this show, I learn something every single day. And I think that is a really, really beautiful thing. I love going to work. And I think that's one of the biggest blessings of working on this show.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I echo all of that. I think you'd have to have nerves of steel to walk onto a set day one with the greats, Forrest and Giancarlo and Vincent, right? And not feel nervous. So it really, honestly, because we shot through COVID, season 1 was the newness of everything and learning one another and getting to know each other and trying to feel comfortable and not totally self-conscious in your work around these guys who actually know what they're doing. Then season 2 was all the strangeness of social distancing and masking on set and feeling like, you're supposed to be creating these intimate relationships with these guys, but needing to stay 6 feet away, which is definitely not conducive to the arts and creating the kind of work that we do. But somehow we made it through. In season 3, we showed up, and COVID is obviously still around, but with looser restrictions, we finally, at least I finally, got the sense of freedom, closeness, both physical and emotional, to kind of let the guard down and feel like I'm working with my friends. And that was, for me, what was new about the atmosphere on season 3 was this like return to home feeling. And to call those guys and this woman and everyone else on this cast friends is an absolute gift. It's kind of like, beyond wildest dreams.
No crying, Antoinette.
I'm trying really
Keep it
hard.
together. Keep it together. Ilfenesh, what do you think it is about Godfather of Harlem that continues just to make it such a fan favorite series?
I mean, I think it has all of the elements to be a perfect show. If we're focusing on the mob side, it could be just a show about the Italians in the 1960s and the Italian mafia, right? If it's just about Bumpy's side, it could be a show about Harlem, which is its own universe, right, in this show, and like could stand on its own. You've got the Geechee, you've got the music, the soul, the civil rights, Adam Clayton Powell, you've got the history and the little bit of creative license that the creators of the show take with history, which is all fair game. It's why we watch the arts, is to be transported a little bit and use our imagination and, and to suspend our disbelief. And then in this season, you've got the Cuban mafia and the CIA. So it's just this intersection of things that doesn't need to happen, right? And like add to that, Bumpy Johnson is this complete hood hero. He's this Robin Hood, stealing from the rich, giving to the poor, totally conflicted, multifaceted man. He's a gangster, but he's also, speaks French. I think in this season we learned that he speaks a little bit of not Spanish, something far more exotic, maybe at least, Antoinette remembers, but he's just, he's a man of the people, but he's a scholar. And he's the underdog. And I don't know many underdogs that people don't root for and don't want to see win. So it's just this like perfect storm of entertainment. And Chris and Paul and our writers, Michael Paynes, they are just masters at their craft,